Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the Middest of Range here. Today's episode, I can promise, will be mid. I can't, however, promise that it'll have any range, though. I apologize for that. And that is because I'm still a little hung up on a topic that I just talked about in one of my most recent videos, which is the whole Alex Caruso Josh Giddey trade. I'm still just kind of baffled by it and need to talk it through some more. And so, what I did today was I did a lot of research because there's been some interesting stuff that's come out about the other offers that the Bulls have received throughout the last year or so involving Alex Caruso, all of which they said no to, obviously, because they said yes to the Josh Giddey trade instead. So I just kind of want to cover what they were offered in those deals and talk about, if they're better or not than the value they got out of the Giddey trade, which, spoiler alert, I think all of them are better than the Josh Giddey trade. Um, the first one that kind of came up is just multiple first round picks from this year's draft. It doesn't really go into any specifics in the research that I did of which picks, although there was an interesting piece in there that one of the picks turned out to be a top 10 pick in this year's draft, which to me is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I know they didn't know at the time, but assuming, again, I don't know which team it's from, but I'm assuming if they got a top 10 pick, it was pretty well known that they were a bad team all season and they were likely going to pick high in the draft. So I just don't really understand why they would turn that down. I know this year is supposed to be a historically bad draft class, or not bad, but weaker than most years, I would say. But still, I feel like most of those guys, especially that are going in the lottery, are going to provide more value long term than Josh Giddey will. Another one that came up is this one has a little bit more ambiguity surrounding it, but I have heard some rumors. I guess I'll just have to dive into the rumors about it because there's been no specifics made in any sort of like publication or anything like that. But apparently the Warriors really wanted Alex Caruso at the trade deadline this year, and they were throwing out a couple different deals. Now, it hasn't been stated specifically in any like official setting what exactly they offered, but from what I've heard, they've offered multiple deals, and the most intriguing one that I want to talk about is the one that supposedly involved Moses Moody, Trace Jackson Davis, and a pick or picks. It's not necessarily clear if it was like one first round pick, multiple second round picks, but either way, this is just crazy to me because am I wild to say this? I think I would take Moses Moody for Josh Giddey 1-for-1 right now. I think Moses Moody's a better player. I think he brings more value to the table. He's young and has like at least some upside as opposed to Giddey, who he just really doesn't have any, it seems like. And you're getting additional value on top of that. Trace Jackson Davis isn't like an amazing player or anything, but you can throw him in the rotation, have him play like 10 to 20 minutes in the regular season and he'll be fine. And you're getting additional picks on top of that. I do not get why they would turn that down. And again, this wasn't like an officially reported trade offer or anything, but I've heard it from multiple sources, and it feels like it's a pretty reliable and realistic offer that the Bulls would receive for Alex Caruso. Um, Beyond that, I also saw, I haven't seen much people talking about this actually, but apparently, so the word on the street for like over a year now has been that the Bulls are going to trade Zach LaVine, and that's only been ramping up as the months go on. And apparently, when they were fielding offers for Zach LaVine sometime in the last year, teams were trying to lump Caruso in there and give probably a pretty good amount of value because you're getting two really good players out of that. And the Bulls said, no, we are not adding Caruso into any of these deals. Alex Caruso is practically untouchable. You can't take him. And so it's just really funny to me that they went from that to then trading him for chump change, which is in Josh Giddey. Like, I feel like they could have gotten so much more value out of Caruso anyway, but especially if they lumped him in with the Zach LaVine trade, which, like I said, as the days go on, just seems more and more likely like that's going to happen as well. It's just kind of hard to judge the Chicago Bulls and specifically their front office for this because it feels like they're operating on a different level, like playing a different game than the other 29 organizations are. where they don't actually care about winning a championship. They care about filling the seats in their stadium because they generate lots of revenue because they're in a big market and have a loyal fan base, which I completely respect that from the fans' perspective. But if I were you, this would be absolutely the last straw for me. I would be boycotting everything Chicago Bulls related until they try to either rebuild or field a winning team. I would be so sick of being perpetually stuck in a state of mid, which, trust me, I know a thing or two about that, all right? But I wouldn't be able to take it anymore at this point. This would be the final straw for me. uh, I'm sorry. Again, I'm not laughing at you. I'm like laughing with you at how terrible this has been run. But trading for Josh Giddey or a player like Josh Giddey that has off the field problems and allegations that potentially hurt the morale in the locker room. Usually when you do something like that, it has to be for like a notably good player. Like, use like Kyrie Irving, for example, or something, who has had like a litany of off-court issues, but still provides so much value to a team that sometimes it's kind of worth it to bring him in anyway to help improve the team. But Josh Giddey off-court stuff aside, he just doesn't really even help the value of a team at all with what he does on the court. And so when you bring in the off-court factors as well, it just is ludicrous to me that they would give up one of their best assets on the entire roster for Josh Giddey. Whew. I don't know how much more I can record about this topic. I just keep breaking down and cracking up like every 30 seconds. I'm sorry, Bulls fans. I really am. This has been terrible. Maybe there'll be more stuff that comes out later about other offers they received for Caruso. But until then, I'm just going to keep laughing at this, and we'll see what comes.